why didn't you guys fix the heating at the school? My child is sitting in school freezing. I mean, it's a double-edged sword for us, to be honest with you.
But we did fix the heat. We spent almost $500,000 with COVID money. And it still
On the
isn't working the
on
way it's supposed to.
controllers, Yes.
Huh?
On the controllers, you did. I wasn't on the board at that.
That was on a boiler.
And a boiler?
Yes.
So why not add to that?
But
We are.
we are, that's what we're doing.
So that was $500,000, but to add more is gonna be $8 million?
To do both schools.
Well, still, even if it's cool.
Didn't Jeff, I think that for you, but didn't you say you could get parts for this school? For the high school, but you can't for Woodland?
Yeah, they're more readily available parts of this. Part of our problem with this school is I was not involved with the boiler replacement, but when they replaced the boiler, the Long Plain boiler, it is actually undersized for the building here. It was, I don't know the parts, I don't know, I was not involved in any of that. But from my experience, and Eric, you might be more versed on this when looking at it. That boiler is probably about half the capacity of what we need. And I don't know who sized it out, I don't know any of that. But from my experience and from, doing my research, that boiler is about half the size.
Can you like add another boiler?
That's what they're planning on doing.
That's what we're looking at
I mean,
doing.
with just add a boiler.
But I don't
Like
know,
another
if that
$500,000
boiler went up by 100%, you're looking at $1 million for that boiler versus, like,
$8
yeah,
million.
versus
$4
4 million at this school and 4 million at that school.
Yeah, they're putting on they're replacing the air handlers and the pumps, and that's part of the problem, why there's no heat in some of the building over here is the pumps, the heat pumps that pump the hot water back to the air handlers in the rooms at the far end of the school aren't sufficient enough to pump that water out, so right now we have 7.5 horsepower pumps pumping that water, and they're looking to put 15 horsepower pumps in to ensure that that hot water gets sent out to where it needs to go.
Okay, so we do that in a couple rooms versus the entire school.
That's $3 million.
The pumps aren't in the rooms, the pumps are out where the boiler's at.
$3 million worth of pumps?
No, there's other things that are added in.
I get it, but I'm just saying $4 million when you have a $500,000 improvement, upgrade, whatever. And to add another $4 million when that one's only half sufficient, the numbers just don't add up. Why is it four? It seems like you can do it for a lot less than $4 million.
We just upgraded heating system and not do all the air conditioning.
I mean, it stinks, but air conditioning's a luxury. It is, I'm sorry, I mean, not everybody has it.
Understood, are you hot in here today?
I am terribly hot,
And this is an area that's in.
but we have to deal with it because we don't have the
Yeah.
money to pay for it.
So the air conditioning, those are in areas,
You could buy every kid a fan.
We never had air conditioning.
The kids aren't gonna have air conditioning.
it's just the large areas.
And
Classes aren't
administration.
gonna have air conditioning.
And the administrative offices.
They already do.
So, put air conditioners in every kid's room, you're still not gonna spend $4 million. What was the budget that just passed, like, how much just roughly?
15 million and change.
Okay, 15 million and change, she just got done saying that we get 10 million from state and 4 million locally. We're outside the budget by a couple million already.
Well, that's not taking into account grants.
Yeah, federal's in there too, I
Federal-
didn't mention federal,
Federal's
federal
not
we
in
won't
there.
get along,
We get
but
money
that
from
covers it.
federal.
Okay, but we're still on a line. I mean, we're close. Making that big of a spending just seems reckless.
I think consolidating is the best.
Part of my concern is, I look at our community, we've lost our pharmacies, we've lost Sheets in the middle of town,
You can.
we've lost, yeah, many manufacturing have left. What happens in 10 years? Can you guarantee this payment can be made 10 years from today? No, you can't. I think we need to be be more resourceful, and I think we need to be more responsible with our money, and I've said it over and over.
No, I think we have a responsibility to our children also.
I agree, but I
it's
also think we need to look at every other avenue that is out there for us.
The
before
school is
we
the
jump
hub of the
into-
community, and to tell these kids that they have to go to school, because, I mean, in my
We all
opinion, I
did.
would think that the school, or that the community would rally and say, wow, like, last 4 years, our kids haven't had heat off and on, like, okay, let's see what we can do to make this school better and do this. We're not going above and beyond and giving these children luxuries. We're trying to provide them with heat. Throw out the windows, throw out the lights, throw out everything else. The heat has to happen. Is anybody else expected to go to their job without heat? How is that a good
I
learning
agree, but how
environment?
many rooms do we have in this, how many classrooms do we have in this school that are for storage or whatever else? Why don't we move our children and shift them into a classroom that has heat before we jump?
We don't
we
have
say
any.
this in every meeting. Every room is being used.
Yes, we don't have any.
We say this every meeting.
Correct.
Yes.
Are they being used for our children?
Yes.
Yes.
So there's.
With the exception of
kids
the
that
three
used to be
rooms
in the
that
school,
are
now you have
that we
a
just
full
went down to 2.
And even some of those are being used for our children, they just happen to be our preschool children that are coming into our school district.
Well, I'm just saying.
If you want to
Our
bring
kids in our
people to
district
move
should
into the
come
community, the first thing they look at if they have children is the school. If they're going to see that the school district and the board won't even
They're gonna
allow
look at the
for
grades, not the
heat,
heating source.
But the problem is.
they will
Yeah, but if there's no
absolutely
heat,
see.
they're not
If there's
gonna
no
come to
heat,
school
they're
either.
not going to come. Do you know how many
And that's what's
professionals
the-
come to
They're not gonna
come to
know
this
what's
area
happening.
and choose to live in St. Mary's?
You
Because
said it wasn't about the
Because it's a
painting.
better school.
what? It's not
If
about.
we have rooms that our children could use that have heat, then we need to put them in those rooms. If they're being used for preschools and daycares,
We don't
whatever
have
it
any of
may
that.
be.
We don't have any of that. We don't have preschools or daycares.
The
Or we have
We don't-
preschool.
we don't have
Right,
daycare.
right.
There's
That
a
has
big
that has
discussion on
2
daycares.
rooms.
But there's
So I
still
think
our
before they go into,
students.
before we use those rooms for these other entities, we need to use them for our children that are here and enrolled and going to school every single day. Some of these other facilities can go elsewhere. They can
We're
find
getting
a
off
rental
topic.
somewhere else.
You're acting like half of the rooms are being used as storage.
They're not. So, back to the topic, what exactly, how do we want this project written up? So that Rhonda can present the change in contract language from the solicitor as well as how we want the contract written up from McClure, so they only have to write it up one more time. What do we want them to do? Or do we wanna table this?
From what I'm in favor of upgrading just the heating system.
Okay,
We can do the air conditioning a couple years down the road and the security guard. Let's do what needs to be done first. Let's get that bond payment down, let's put that upgrading on the list.
Eric, is that something that can, I don't, about an HVAC, can you do?
Pretty challenging.
heat without air
Continue to use some of the 20-some year old units that you have on the new system. You're probably gonna have to put new controls on old units again, which may not work.
Which wouldn't be cost effective, I mean, we're gonna do like HVAC.
I don't think a lot of the suggestions that are being made are really engineering plug and play feasible, realistically. You can break it up as much as you want, but then you're losing dollars for remobilization over term. If you think about that, since I'm back every summer for 3 summers to do these 10 or these 20 or these 10, you know, you're paying that every year. Really, our mobilization would be 1 summer for both schools, so you're cutting down on that. There's always things that you could reduce the scope of work, but you're still leaving those older assets in place, and you're gonna have to come back and replace them at some point. If they fail now, then you're gonna have to fix something that you're going to replace them with. That's a tough question, obviously. I can't really predict what's gonna happen in the future. But, you know, typically when we see 20, 25 old rooftop units, it's time to replace them. You know, been pretty consistent about that the whole time along. You could certainly break up and do 1 school one summer, 1 school another summer, that's up to you guys. But really inside the school, when you're ripping stuff out and you're replacing things, I think your best dollar is gonna be spent getting the most work you can get done at one time. Through an economy of scale.
Okay, thank you.
break up the project, I'm in favor of doing the, HVAC systems in both schools and the security vestibule. We've already got a grant for the security vestibule, and I also think that, when the DCE grants, and they have been open, and we have looked into them, that Danielle mentioned, when those come open, we can apply for that, and are we gonna get it, or are we not gonna get it? I mean, nobody can predict the future, but I think we stand a good chance of getting it. I think it's hard to sit on this board and keep everybody, the community, and I understand the $11 million. I don't like the $8 million payback. I pay taxes like everyone else. None of us are happy about this. And I understand that you guys are frustrated and you have a right to voice your opinion. But we also sit up here and we pull numbers from the Pennsylvania Department of Ed, and in the past 10 years, our student enrollment has only dropped, if you count our 42 cyber kids from last year, 5% over 10 years. We are still educating 569 kids for 24-25. Those 569 kids deserve an education, they deserve a warm school to go to, and they deserve a school board that's going to back them also. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to provide the best education for our students. We just interviewed 2 gentlemen who both said the same thing, which is why they're interested in getting on the board. In my opinion, that's what we're here to do. We're here to provide them the education. We're here to provide them a warm and safe place to go. And so there's my vote, and that's my reason for the vote. I'm for the double HVAC system, and I'm for the security vestibule.
Don't we still have to do the steps? We can't get the boiler down there.
The steps are $200,000. I think might be something that
We can do some.
we could pay out of pocket. And why pay interest on the $200,000 if we could do that out of pocket?
So can we, this might be another question can we include additional things to approve for the energy savings project, but then only include certain things for the bond purchase, or is it an all or nothing? I don't know, where's she at? Wasn't she there?
So like, could we include the security, could we include the steps in your project, but not take them out in the bond, pay that portion of your bill with our money, and only borrow what we need for the HVAC and the security vestibule? Or take the security and only borrow what we need for the HVAC?
There's no obligation where the money comes from, whether it's out of your savings or borrowed money.
Yeah.
The board determines how much they wanna borrow. The rule is you cannot borrow more than the project.
Okay.
But you can borrow less.
But that way, if we encompassed those projects within this project, that we could look for the energy saving grants. If we just did it out of scope on our own, it might not be considered an energy savings.
I am not a grant specialist, so I cannot answer what
No, I think,
grants
I
are
think,
eligible
like,
for which things.
like Eric said, I mean, part of the project's gonna be covered, we're gonna look for the rebates, the grants and
Right.
such, so that would all be part of the project, whether it's a grant or it's money out of our savings or the bond money. However the money comes for the project is fine with McClure where the money comes from, right?
Right. They don't.
Yeah, we'll help process 179D tax credits and any credits available with local utilities, which there are. And that goes directly back to the school as part of the project, like $20.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Just thinking logistically, this is, first week of July is out, which starts in August, late August, or September, I don't know the exact date. What kind of lead time do you need to get?
11 months, so
It's all for
their
next year.
plan would be to start this in June of next year and finish by the first week in August for school of next year. Yeah.
So, when would this board have to act in order to have them ready for June of next year?
So,
Last month.
Yeah, I was gonna say
yeah,
2 weeks
last
ago.
month.
For real. Last month.
Mr. Muscata, we typically like between 6 and 8 months of lead time to get stuff underway, especially if we're ordering long lead equipment like electrical infrastructure to support the mechanical. Typically, a lot of the rooftop units are months, boilers 2 to 3 months, unit ventilator, depending on what kind you get, maybe 2 to 3 months of lead time, but we still have to develop and engineer it all, and then put that out to bid as well. So there's a lot of stuff to do after the contract is approved, before we're ready to dig, get on site and start the work. Obviously, our goal is to start as soon as possible, so we get things done, but we recognize that the business is educating kids here, so we can't really get it until they're all out. But, for example, like, this year, in May, it was pretty warm out, right? So maybe we couldn't start the boilers early.
It was rainy.
Yeah, correct. It was.
Very rainy.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for asking.
So I'm in favor of the full HVAC for both schools and include that in the bond. And then the vestibule and the mechanical room stairs in order to do the HVAC systems. But not include that in the bond, but still as part of the core energy savings
What
project.
did you say?
The HVAC systems for
Yeah.
both schools,
Yeah.
but, and use that for the bond. And the vestibule, which is mostly paid with grant money.
Right.
The remaining balance and the mechanical room stairs to pay out of savings, which will be, what, $300,000 a month? Yeah,
Something,
350, yeah.
yeah.
That's what mine.
I'm for that also.
I'm for that as well.
I really do think you need to fix the HVAC. We're already a year out. If we wait another 2 months, we're gonna be 2 years out. Something could seriously go wrong. If we have to pay for all these kids to learn from home, we're gonna have to eat that cost also. There's bigger things to fry here than, our tax dollars are important to everybody. We're all here, we're all taxpayers. Just because there's less kids in our community doesn't mean that they deserve any less. We all had these amenities when we were in school. We were all taken care of when we were here. Why do these kids deserve any less? I think it's our job as a community to do the right thing for them, not just complain about our tax dollars. I understand. But we have a job to do as a community, not just as a school board, to do the right thing for our kids.
I don't think anybody said that they deserved anything less.
I heard people say, well, can't they just wear a coat? Well, it's hot. Heat's a luxury. That came up just not too long ago.
But there are ways, there's half the students,
Is there?
there is, from previous classes that were in the school, maybe not 10 years ago, because the population already started to decrease by then. But let's go 20 years ago, when there were 600 kids per school, right? There was a time, my graduating class, your graduating class had 100 kids. We're down to 35, 1/3 of what our graduating class was.
Okay, but as I've stated in other meetings, just because the class sizes are smaller, doesn't mean that the classrooms are not being utilized.
Okay, but you have to
We still have to offer the same classes.
but the
And
class
offer more.
sizes
And
are
we offer
small.
more than we used to.
So you can consolidate some of the classes, put more kids in a class. The teacher shouldn't have 12 kids.
So you want them to teach multiple
Great.
grades and multiple
Well, there's 35 kids in a
subjects
class.
at the same time?
How many math classes do you have for one grade? Because there would have been 4 back when we were in school.
It's not really
Per
how it
grade.
Or
works.
per grade?
Yeah, 25 kids per class, 100 kids.
Well,
Now there's 35 kids.
But it is.
It's not an easy task.
No, it's not an easy task, but you have multiple grade levels taking, you might have a senior that's in a class with a sophomore. And you might have an advanced freshman who's taking classes with sophomore.
Yeah, we all did that.
You can't just say it's by grade level.
There has to be a way if you want to do it. Like, I think it was Dave that just said that. You gotta want it. And with all due respect to Eric, $1.2 million in profit, what about bidding the jobs out?
He is going to bid the jobs
Right, he's
out.
gonna bid them out. And he's gonna make $1.2 million for his
So I'm
company.
gonna make a statement. Part of the Guaranteed Energy Savings Act states that you must use a pre-approved, contractor or engineering firm. They have to go through an approval process to even be on this list, to use them. And so you have to select someone from that list. You can't just,
For what?
to get benefit from the Guaranteed Energy Savings Act.
How much benefit do you get from that?
That would be the grant.
That would be the grants and everything that McClure's been talking about getting for us and the tax
Is
savings.
that gonna save us at least the at minimum of the 10% that they're getting in profit?
I don't think you're understanding
Well,
what
I
I'm
do,
saying.
you're saying we have to go through them to get these grants and
No,
stuff
I'm
like
saying
that.
we have to select someone from the list,
Right.
there's like 30
To
companies
qualify
on
for
it.
grants and stuff
And
through
they're
the
not
energy
all in
savings.
Pennsylvania.
So what if we're only eligible for $200,000 in grants? Is it worth us to go through this energy savings program? If we're spending another $1 million,
Yeah, architects and engineers that are by code we have to do.
I mean,
Eric
Every construction company has 6%, 7%.
Eric explained all that at another meeting,
Well-
how much it costs us to have an engineer, have a general contractor, have I don't remember all the aspects that you stated, but, and then how much each one of those adds to
so
the
you can no
cost.
longer just bid jobs out and say,
You
hey,
can,
you need a
yes.
furnace, you have to have an
But-
engineer to tell you.
But when you bid it out, every company that comes in is going to have their own engineer, their own architect to draw it up.
Okay, they're gonna
So-
give you a bid,
Valerie,
Yeah.
let them finish answering.
sorry, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
So it's gonna increase the cost. Unlike if we do a large-scale project, we have one engineer that comes in, we don't have 5 engineers coming in. We have one architect that draws it up. We don't have a few. We have one company bringing in their equipment to be more efficient. A big overhead of bringing in